My dad body shamed me in front of our whole family, making me cry, so I gave him a harsh reality check and said I never wanted to see him again. From as early as I can remember, my father always had something to say about my body. Despite my petite frame at 110 pounds and 5'3", he still managed to make me feel like the heaviest person in the room. Ironically, my father himself was 240 pounds at 5'5", but that never seemed to stop him from throwing cruel remarks my way. His words pierced deeper than he probably ever realized. Or maybe he did, and that was the worst part, knowing it affected me and continuing to do it anyway. I remember the first time I introduced my boyfriend to my parents. We had just sat down for dinner, and my father, with a twisted grin on his face, looked at my boyfriend and said, "I'm surprised anyone would date her." I felt the blood drain from my face, the sting of his words like a slap across my cheeks. I wished in that moment the ground would swallow me whole. He always knew how to humiliate me, and he took every opportunity to do so, especially in front of others. When I was a senior in high school, I couldn't bear it anymore. I turned to my school's counselor, hoping for some form of solace, a shred of support. I told her about the way my father talked to me, how it made me feel like nothing, but she just laughed in my face. "You're being delusional," she said. "If you have self-image issues, you might need to be put in a ward." I left her office feeling more alone than ever. Not only was I fighting my father's words, but now it seemed even those meant to help couldn't see the damage being done. That brings us to yesterday, the day everything finally came to a head. I was visiting my parents' house for an extended family gathering, something I always dreaded but forced myself to endure. It didn't take long for my father to start his usual routine. With a room full of people, he pointed at me and sneered, "Look at how her thighs jiggle, and just look at those stomach folds." When she's sitting, I could feel the familiar sting of humiliation creep up my spine, my eyes burning with unshed tears. But it was the next remark that pushed me over the edge. "How do you even have a boyfriend?" he laughed. "Is he into whales or something? I mean, can he even find the hole?" The room fell silent, his words hanging in the air like a dark cloud. I snapped. Every ounce of pain and humiliation I had bottled up over the years exploded out of me. I stood up, my voice shaking with fury and grief. "Fuck you. You weigh more than twice what I do, your gut rests on your thighs, and you're insulting me. What kind of a dad are you? I hate you." For a moment, he looked stunned, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Then, as if on autopilot, he tried to regain control. "Excuse me," he said, his voice laced with condescension. "I am your father. You will respect me. If not for me, you wouldn't be alive right now." My tears were flowing freely at this point. I could barely see the room around me, the faces of my family members blurred by my crying eyes. "What do you get out of humiliating your own daughter in front of people?" I asked, my voice cracking. He just brushed me off. "I was only joking," he said, waving a dismissive hand. "You need to stop being so serious. It's not my fault your body turned out the way it did. Just accept it as a joke." But it wasn't a joke. It was never a joke. And in that moment, I realized something: he would never change. He would always be this way, and I couldn't keep letting him tear me down. So I left. I grabbed my things and walked out the door, my father's laughter still echoing in my ears. By the time I got back to my apartment, my boyfriend could tell something was wrong. The second he saw me, he knew. He rushed over to me, concern etched into every line of his face. "What happened?" he asked, his voice soft but filled with worry. I broke down. I told him everything, every vile word my father had said, every ounce of humiliation I felt in that room. As I spoke, I could see the anger building in my boyfriend's eyes, his fists clenching and unclenching as he listened. "How could he say that to you?" he demanded, his voice trembling with rage. "You're beautiful, and you deserve so much better than this." He held me, whispering words of comfort into my ear, but the pain was still there, raw and aching. "I want to talk to him," he said finally. "He can't keep treating you like this." But I shook my head. "No, please don't. It'll only make things worse. He won't listen to you, and I don't want to create more drama. I just want to forget about it for a while." Reluctantly, he nodded, though I could see the frustration in his eyes. "All right, if that's what you want. But promise me, if he ever says anything like that again, you'll tell me right away. I can't stand the thought of him hurting you like this." I nodded and hugged him again, feeling a small sense of relief in his arms but still so lost and broken inside. Update 1. The next day, I tried again to talk to my father, hoping maybe this time he'd understand, but it was like talking to a brick wall. He brushed me off, saying I was too sensitive, that I couldn't take a joke. My boyfriend's father had heard of what had been happening but never witnessed it until that day. My parents came over to visit again, not knowing that my partner's parents were there as well. It was supposed to be a simple visit for planning my upcoming 21st birthday. My father started his usual tirade almost immediately, making remarks about my thighs jiggling and questioning whether I even trained. My mother laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world, but then there was a loud smack, and my father yelped. My boyfriend's dad had slapped my father across the face, his patience finally worn thin. "You're a pathetic excuse for a father," he spat. "For all these years, you've done nothing but mentally damage your own daughter. You've broken her down to the point where she just accepts this abuse. How sick are you to treat your own child this way?" The room went silent, and then my boyfriend jumped in, his voice shaking with anger as he defended me. My mother tried to switch sides, acting like she didn't know how bad it was, but my boyfriend's mom wasn't having any of it. She was fierce and protective, not afraid to call my parents out on their behavior. "Apologize and get the fuck out, or you no longer have a daughter," she demanded. My parents muttered some half-assed apology, but I knew it was meaningless. They didn't understand, and they never would. Update 2. I knew talking wouldn't get through to him, so I decided to give him a reality check in the form of a gift basket. Side, I placed workout pamphlets, personal trainer contacts, and a note. "Dear Dad, since you like my writing so much, I decided to take the time to spell this out for you. This basket contains many options to help you. I've noticed your body has lost its good shape and is honestly just not pleasing to look at. So I have included many workout pamphlets and personal trainer contacts to help you with that. One in particular will surely help you with that stomach of yours. I can only imagine your frustration having a daughter that is fitter than her father. Since you clearly love taking your frustrations out on me, I highly recommend reading through the therapist contacts I have included in this basket. I will advise you to let Mom seek out these therapists too, as her backbone is non-existent and she lets awful men walk all over her. Fun fact, 110 pounds for a woman that is 5'3" is healthy, if not bordering on being underweight. However, 240 pounds for a man in his 50s and just scraping 5'5" is concerningly overweight. I would suggest taking care of that. I would hate for someone to start mocking you about it. It is very unpleasant. Now, all pleasantries aside, this will be the last time you hear from me. This will be the last time I call you Mom and Dad. Since I have all of my documents, I no longer need to converse with you. Your names have been taken off the guest list for my 21st that you so graciously refused to help pay for. If you do show up, I will have police escort you off the premises. If you show up at my new house or merely follow me to the store, it will result in the police being called. If you continue this behavior, I will file a restraining order against both of you. If you would like a reason for this, you will have to find it yourself. It is quite obvious, but since you are so focused on damaging me into submission, I fear you will never understand. That is not my problem. Yes, you did bring me into this world, but you are not my parents. I have a family, and you will never be a part of it. Please do take my advice and seek help. This is not a joke, Dad. Yours truly. I knew it was harsh, but it was the truth he needed to hear. My aunt informed the rest of our family, and the backlash was immediate. My parents were getting berated and disowned left and right, and for the first time, I felt a little pride in standing up for myself. My 21st birthday came, and despite everything, I was determined to enjoy it. We rented a small hall, and for the first time in a long while, I felt surrounded by love and support. My boyfriend's family had gone out of their way to make the day special for me. I was starting to feel at ease, to forget the turmoil of the past few weeks. But just as we were about to cut the cake, I saw my boyfriend's mom whisper something to him and nod towards the entrance. There they were, my parents, standing in the doorway as if they hadn't been disowned, as if they had every right to be there. My stomach churned with anxiety and anger. My boyfriend immediately walked over to them, standing tall and firm. They tried to argue, my father raising his voice about how they were my parents and had every right to be there. My boyfriend's father stepped in, trying to keep things calm, but it was clear my dad wasn't having it. He started ranting about how they had come to apologize, that I was being ungrateful for not accepting it. Security was called, and within minutes they were escorting my parents out of the hall. My mom started crying, pleading to be let in to make things right, but I knew it was just another attempt to manipulate me. As they were let out, my father kept yelling about how they were just trying to see their daughter, how this was all my fault. I felt everyone's eyes on me, pity and shock mingling in their expressions. My boyfriend wrapped his arms around me, whispering that it was over, that they were gone and couldn't hurt me anymore, but the night was already tainted by their presence. The next day, they showed up at my door again, pleading to be let in. I only opened the door a crack, enough to let them know I was there, but not enough for them to come inside. They begged, they cried, but I stood firm. You made your choices, I told them. Now you have to live with the consequences. I'm done letting you hurt me. My boyfriend appeared beside me, his presence a silent support. She's told you to leave. You need to go now. They left, defeated. And as the door closed, I broke down into tears, my boyfriend holding me tightly. I knew I had done the right thing, but that didn't make it any less painful. I was done letting them control my life. I was done letting them break me down. And for the first time, I felt a small glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could start to heal.